The most dangerous addiction in modern life isn't drugs. It isn't alcohol. It's comfort. Not extreme comfort. Not billionaire luxury. Just enough comfort to stop you from changing your life. And that is exactly why most people never become powerful. Because comfort has a psychological price. And Machiavelli understood this centuries before modern psychology even existed. He watched intelligent men destroy their potential not because they were weak, but because they became comfortable too early. A warm bed, a stable paycheck, a predictable routine, a little entertainment at night, a little validation from people who don't even matter. And slowly, ambition dies without making a sound. Look carefully at modern society. Most people are not physically trapped. They're psychologically sedated. That's the system nobody talks about. Because the easiest person to control is not the poor person. It's the comfortable person, the person with just enough stability to fear losing it. That's why people stay in jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, cities they've outgrown, lives they secretly know are too small for them. Not because they can't leave, because comfort quietly convinces them not to. And the terrifying part is, comfort doesn't feel dangerous. It feels safe. Machiavelli understood that human beings will tolerate almost any level of unhappiness, as long as it's predictable. Read that again psychologically. People don't always choose what makes them powerful. They choose what makes them familiar. That's why so many intelligent people slowly become average. Not through failure, through repetition. Wake up, work, scroll, distract yourself, sleep, repeat, and eventually your nervous system mistakes routine for security. Here's where it becomes darker. Comfort doesn't just kill ambition. It kills awareness. Because once people become comfortable, they stop asking dangerous questions. Questions like, who benefits from my obedience? What would happen if I disappeared for 6 months and rebuilt myself completely? Am I actually happy or just adapted? That last question destroys people internally because adaptation is not happiness. A prisoner adapts to prison. That doesn't make him free. And modern comfort is often a psychological prison disguised as convenience. Fast food, streaming entertainment, endless dopamine, climate-controlled rooms, digital distractions, predictable schedules. None of these things look dangerous individually, but together, they create a human being who stops resisting life. Machiavelli believed power belonged to the people willing to endure temporary discomfort for long-term control. Most people do the opposite. They sacrifice long-term power for short-term comfort. And they do it every single day without noticing. Emotional tension. Let me make this uncomfortable for a second. Some of you are exhausted. Not because life is hard, but because deep down, you know you've been settling. You know there's another version of yourself you stopped pursuing. The ambitious version, the dangerous version, the disciplined version. But comfort negotiated with you slowly, not all at once. That's how psychological surrender works. First it tells you, you deserve a break. Then, you can start tomorrow. Then, 1 more year won't hurt. And eventually 10 years disappear. This is why Machiavelli respected disciplined rulers more than emotional ones. Because discipline requires the ability to reject comfort. And most people can't do that consistently. Not because they're stupid, because comfort rewires human behavior. Your brain begins prioritizing convenience over growth, pleasure over transformation, certainty over opportunity. That's why the average person becomes easier to predict with age. They stop evolving. Now, here's the hidden truth nobody says out loud. Comfort is profitable. Entire industries are built around keeping people passive. Passive consumers, passive workers, passive thinkers. Why? Because uncomfortable people become dangerous. A man who questions everything becomes difficult to control. A woman who stops needing validation becomes difficult to manipulate. A person willing to walk away from comfort becomes unpredictable. And unpredictable people change systems. That's why modern society constantly sells emotional sedation, endless scrolling, endless entertainment, endless convenience, endless distraction. Not because comfort is evil, But because distracted people rarely become powerful, Machiavelli understood something brutal about human nature. Most people don't want freedom badly enough to endure uncertainty. They want security, even if security slowly destroys their potential. Identity shift moment. At some point, every powerful person faces the same decision: comfort or transformation. You cannot fully have both at the same time, because transformation requires friction. It requires embarrassment, isolation, discipline, risk, uncertainty, everything comfort tries to protect you from. That's why your future identity is hidden inside the things you currently avoid: the hard conversation, the lonely beginning, the uncomfortable discipline, the temporary instability. Most people run from these moments. Powerful people understand these moments are the price of reinvention. And once you realize that, psychologically, your entire life changes. Because now, discomfort stops feeling like punishment. It starts feeling like evidence. Evidence that you are growing faster than your old identity can survive. Powerful, concluding payoff. So here's the real psychological price of comfort. It doesn't destroy you dramatically. It destroys your edge quietly. Your hunger disappears. Your curiosity weakens. Your standards lower. Your ambition softens. Until one day, you wake up living a life you never consciously chose. That is the true danger. Not pain, not failure, not struggle. Comfort. Because comfort makes surrender feel reasonable. Machiavelli knew that the people who control the future are rarely the most comfortable people in the room. They are the people willing to endure temporary chaos while everyone else protects their routine. So ask yourself something honestly tonight. What part of your life exists only because it's comfortable? And what would happen if comfort stopped making your decisions for you? Because the moment you stop worshiping comfort, you become very difficult to control. And people who cannot be controlled eventually change the world.